Hey there, team. Today I want to read you a story about the famous artist Pablo Picasso. He is from the country of Spain and he spoke Spanish. And this is a true story about his life and then a girl with a ponytail, the inspiration behind quite a few of his famous artworks. So we'll read a little bit about his life, the story of the girl with a ponytail, and hopefully it inspires us to be a creative, kooky, and cubist artist like Pablo. It was the first day of summer, and Sylvette and her friends were sitting on the terrace in the sun. Sylvette was so shy that she always sat a little bit apart, but she listened to every word. Have you heard? Picasso's staying right here in our city. It's incredible. The most famous artist in the world. Every picture he paints is worth a fortune, they said. I heard he had a huge white car sent from the United States in exchange for just one painting. Sylvette was very interested. Secretly, she dreamed of becoming an artist herself, and in a suitcase under her bed was a sketchbook full of her drawings. All her secrets were locked inside that suitcase, things no one else had ever seen. Suddenly, Sylvette noticed something absolutely amazing. Right in front of her eyes, a beautiful picture had appeared above the terrace wall. Look, shouted her friends, it's Sylvette. Only Sylvette has a ponytail like that. See it peeking over the ledge? Oh my, Sylvette hid her face in her hands. She heard a roar of laughter from behind the wall. They all ran to look. They saw a man holding the picture above his head. He was short but muscular. He wore a striped shirt, shorts, and a pair of bedroom slippers. It was Pablo Picasso. I saw you all from my studio, he laughed, and I made a sketch. Come on, why don't you visit me there? So that's an actual drawing by Pablo Picasso. Sylvette was last inside the door, her heart beating like a drum. The studio was a treasure house, as if the artist had never thrown a single thing away. Every surface was piled with bits and pieces. Tins of paint, scraps of wood, strange sculptures, toys, broken pots, a cowboy hat, flowers, painted plates, a boomerang, fish bones, a clown mask, birdcage, guitars, bullfighter's sword. More than anything else, Sylvette saw paintings. Hundreds and hundreds of them, each one signed with a single word, Picasso. So his artist's signature. Picasso was still laughing. At this point, he was 73 years old, but he acted like a little boy. Now then, he shouted, I'll draw one person. Who will it be? One of Sylvette's friends stepped forward quickly. She was very beautiful. You can draw me, Mr. Picasso, she said. I'll sit for you. Picasso looked at her quite fiercely. No, he said. You saw my picture outside. I've chosen the girl with the ponytail. Sylvette felt a bit sick. She wanted to run straight out of the door, but Picasso was very kind. It's all right, he said gently. You can trust me. Come and sit down. Sylvette's too shy, teased her friends, and too dreamy as well. That's good, laughed the artist. Then we will get along, because Picasso's a dreamer too. Come back another time, he called to Sylvette's friends. Sylvette and I have work to do. Picasso looked carefully at Sylvette. She was shivering. Here, borrow this coat, he said. Then he began to draw. So drawing from observation, looking at what he sees, the shapes that he sees with his eyes. The first drawing was slow and careful, a delicate pencil study. So a real pencil drawing by Picasso. It's in proportion. The second picture was larger, Sylvette's still and nervous as a wild deer. So it's getting a little bit more abstract, a little more angular, a little more geometric. Then Picasso began to work faster and faster. The pictures grew larger, more strange. Picasso was having fun. So now we're full on abstract. We went from realistic to a little cuckoo, but it's still super fun. At the end of the day, Sylvette ran home. She took out her sketchbook, but her head was spinning. None of her drawings came out right. The next morning, Sylvette returned nervously to the studio. Perhaps Picasso forgot about her. But he opened the door and grinned like a little boy. Little by little, the paintings became more daring, more extraordinary. Little by little, Sylvette became less shy, too. Picasso seemed to change every moment, just like his pictures. He was as proud as a king. He painted like a magician, and yet he liked to dress up and play games. Sometimes he put on a funny hat or a mask to make Sylvette laugh. He told her about the animals he owned, dogs, a goat who was allowed to sleep inside, and a bad-tempered monkey. Once he had even kept an owl. Of course, Picasso had painted them all. He had a lot of funky pets, All through the summer, Picasso created pictures of Sylvette, sculptures in cardboard and sculptures in metal, and as the work became bigger and bolder, she became braver, too. Sylvette's father had left home when she was a little girl, but for that summer, Picasso was like a father to her. Shy Sylvette with the most famous painter in the world, it was like a fairy tale. One day, Sylvette plucked up the courage and showed Picasso her secret sketchbook. She told him about her dream of becoming an artist, and Picasso didn't laugh or tease her. He said, "That is good, but you have to be brave. Learn to let go. Look at me. When I'm angry, I make angry pictures. When I'm sad, my pictures are sad too." The blue period. "And when I'm happy, my painting's full of joy. Even my dreams are in my work. There can be no secrets in painting." So, showing your emotions through your work. That afternoon, a photographer came to the studio. Sylvette hated having her photo taken. She wanted to hide. Then she saw Picasso making funny faces at the camera, and suddenly, it didn't seem so bad. The man took dozens of pictures of Picasso and Sylvette beside the paintings. Her friends couldn't believe their eyes. Shy Sylvette was on the cover of a famous magazine. And before long, every magazine wanted a picture of Picasso's new model. Girls in Paris and London were even copying the hairstyle. They all wanted the Sylvette ponytail. Sylvette cut out all the photographs and locked them carefully in the suitcase with her sketchbook. Sometimes Picasso worked late into the night. Once Sylvette saw him behind the studio in the middle of a pile of garbage, hunting for interesting objects. The richest artist who ever lived made sculptures from old junk that people had thrown away. Sylvette had seen some of them in magazines. A baboon with toy cars for a face, a bull's head made from an old bicycle seat and handlebars. So, Picasso used whatever he could find to make collages and artworks, even sculptures, out of toys and old bikes. So these are real sculptures he's made. Sylvette loved watching Picasso work. Painting, sculptures, painted pots poured from him like a volcano. He could do it all. And at last, Picasso started a huge sculpture of Sylvette with old pieces of pottery for the arms and legs. It had a long neck and a round bag, just like hers, but the head was so strange, Sylvette didn't think it looked like her at all. As she watched, Sylvette had a sad feeling that this would be the last time Picasso would use her as a model. Since the day on the terrace, she had been in his work, and soon it would all fade away like the summertime. While Picasso worked, Sylvette began telling him her secrets. She talked about the time her father had gone away. She kept a special picture of him in her suitcase, but she never told anyone how lonely she'd been. Picasso looked up at her with burning eyes. "It's very hard when people move apart, but try to remember, with every door that closes, a new door opens." Picasso looked at her kindly. Then he jumped up. "You've given me an idea. I knew something was missing from the sculpture. Sylvette must hold something in her hand." Picasso began searching through bits and pieces on a table. He tipped out a drawer onto the floor, and at last he found what he wanted. "In her hand," Picasso announced, "Sylvette holds a key." He pushed a big iron key into the hand of the sculpture. Sylvette looked puzzled. "She has a key because she has so many secrets locked away." Picasso fixed the key in place with some plaster. "But she also has a key to open new doors." So here's his abstract sculpture of Sylvette holding the key to open new doors for new opportunities and to maybe unlock her secrets and become a famous artist herself. Then Picasso reached out his hand, white with plaster, and gently touched Sylvette's face. "Look, it's finished, the girl with the key. Now, Sylvette, I would like to give you a present. You may choose any picture you like. Perhaps it'll help to open some doors for you." When Sylvette stepped out of Picasso's studio for the last time, she was carrying the very first picture. She held it carefully because the paint on the signature was not quite dry. "For Sylvette, from Picasso." A beautiful picture of the girl with a ponytail. So she took the very first one from the beginning. After that summer, Sylvette began to paint as bravely as Picasso had taught her. Gradually, she became a well-known artist herself. And when the picture Picasso gave her was sold, Sylvette had enough money to pay for a beautiful apartment of her own, with space for a real studio high on the top floor with views across the whole city of Paris, the capital of France. Sylvette ran up the stairs, she turned the key, and opened the door. So there in the distance you see the Eiffel Tower, a symbol of Paris. And here's a real photograph of Pablo Picasso, Sylvette with the ponytail. And look, she's sitting, and that first picture he ever made is right there. And then his abstract cubist work is behind it. So it shows how he knows how to draw realistically and also use abstraction to show his emotions. And he's the most famous painter and most prolific painter, which means he made the most artworks of just about anybody in the whole world. So I hope you learned a little bit about Picasso and the true story of Sylvette, and that it inspires you to create some cubist abstract artworks of your own. Keep up the good work. Adios.